Hello and welcome to this episode of the Alien Familiar RPG Podcast. I am Clayton.
I'm Hayley.
I'm sensing my name, Kyle Perkins.
Was that right?
Yes.
I'm lost. It's Katie.
Before we get started, I just want to remind everyone that we have show notes and more at alienfamiliar.com. You can email us at alienfamiliarmedia@gmail.com. We are on Facebook and we are on Patreon at /alienfamiliarmedia. So if you enjoy our content and would like to help us out with hosting costs, any help would be greatly appreciated. Our topic for today, we are going to be talking about playing against personality. Can we really be anything we want to be in role-playing games? Can we really play anything that we want to play? I am going to be having the position that we can.
And I'm going to be starkly against it.
And we're just here. We're just hanging out. Kyle's got some KFC still.
It was not my choice. I had a free sandwich coupon.
So we're just,
You're just here to make sure things don't get blocked.
Could I really play a character that, upon given a free sandwich coupon, did not cash in that coupon?
Yeah. I think that goes against, every fiber.
Every single fiber. And
you get a lot
after this KFC, I'm going to need more fiber.
More fiber.
But here's a little pedantic point about the question. The question is, can you really be anything you want to be? So do you want to be the type of person who will be able to turn down a free coupon for a sandwich?
Oh, what the hell, man? You can't do that. Of course you can be. I want to be.
So you just want to give up on a free coupon that someone went out of their way to specifically mail to you. Do you know how cruel that is? You want to be a cruel monster in this world?
I want to not cash in the coupon. I want to cash in the coupon. And that's easy. I'll do it.
Do it.
Do it.
This is getting out of hand.
Now there's two of them. Right across the table. We're on the other side. We're just over here.
It's like if you splice it like how Queen mixes their music just in one ear, out the other.
That's terrifying.
It would be so good. Oh, can you imagine? Do you remember that song by Church that goes, do it, do it, do it, do it, do it, do it, but do it, do it, do it, do it, to do rock.
That's like
do it.
It's a chair?
Cherish. They were a girl group from the early 2000s.
I'd like to explain what happened. So, one, we're horribly off topic. Two, Kyle, you thought that Hayley said share.
I did.
Three, you happened to just mispronounce share as share, which is hilarious. Four, I guarantee you that none of us here have ever heard of the girl band Cherish.
Well, maybe you're all uncultured swine.
Well, I did just call share.
Very likely.
So, yeah.
We don't mention her final form at this table.
Ah, yes. Sandy and the chair. Okay, so back to the topic at hand. Are we gonna be that pedantic? Are we gonna argue about being able to play a character that you want to play, or are we gonna argue being able to play any character, even one you don't want to play?
Well, I always feel like I am on team, you can't do anything you want, fate is real and you're all gonna die, where there are parts of you that will always translate it. You can never play someone that's completely 100% different than you. When you play,
You're not answering my question.
Wait, what is the question?
So I will answer your question.
Answer the question.
Well, we're gathering around a table or sitting on couches or whatever to play a game that we're coming here to enjoy. So if you know for a fact you're not going to enjoy something, there is no point in doing it if you're not going to get anything out of it.
Now, Hayley, I want to hear what you were saying, but first, that is a point that I want to clear up. Are we going to try to say that you can play anything? Just take a look. It's in your book. You can play it or reading it. Or you can play anything that you really want to play and enjoy. But if you know that you won't enjoy playing a criminal, then you're not going to.
Well, what's the point of playing something you're not going to get anything out of it?
Challenge your mind!
Oh god, that involves this hypothesis now all happened that I aren't. And that you must challenge.
It's a reality.
If you look back on our history of episodes, you'll find numerous times wherein I have argued that the craft of Dungeons and Dragons, I can't roll my eyes, will lead people to do amazing things like an artistic focus group where everyone tries to play
That was the rape scenario, I'm sure.
What?
Yeah, well, I wasn't
What?
gonna call it that, but
That's what it was.
Can
Let's
we
not
just-
say
what?
it wasn't that.
well, so the idea that actually, on a very serious note, that D&D could be used as therapy, and D&D could be used by someone trying to, you want to have a character who is an assault survivor in your story, and you don't know anything about that type of character. So you do a lot of research, and you invite a bunch of your friends together to be like, hey, this is not going to be a very fun game, but I want to try and workshop this better and respectful at writing this character. So I've reached out to friends and people I know who are willing to work and talk with me to be a better writer. So let's do this really, not the event, but you're going to do some kind of game where your character is a survivor of assault.
That
Sounds
was
interesting.
But there is some part of you that is saying, yes, I want to do this. Even though I know it's going to be terrible, I do want to do this.
like
Fair point.
that was brought up, I think, because our hard line there was that you were trying to have this particular case where everyone's respectful and someone study it, even preface it, they're writing it for a book or they're actor or something. But even then, to get tie back to are they really playing D&D at that point? That's a separate conversation. But I do feel like coming down on the hobby itself is a craft, because the idea of challenging yourself, like when if I enjoy reading books, right? I'll just counteract myself mid-sentence, because I suppose there are times when I'll be reading something, my go-to will be I don't normally read things from this point of view. Maybe I should challenge myself to that. So I'm actually entirely.
The delineation for me is that we're not getting paid for this.
Oh, you're not? I am.
I appreciate our Patreon subscribers, but we're not getting paid for this. We're trying to do this for... A lot of us are doing it for fun. The example of playing this character who has had this terrible thing go through their life. You're trying to play this character in order to enrich yourself in some way. So regardless, you're trying to get something specific out of the act of playing the character, regardless of whether it is an experience where you are going to enjoy the act of doing the experience, or where you're going to get something out of the experience. Like the example of reading the books. You may pick up a book that's going to challenge you. You still have the agency to decide, okay, yeah, I'm going to suffer through this book because I want to better myself in some way. Versus having to read something for work or having to read something for school. You are for school, you are getting something out of it. For work, you are getting something out of it. But it's really not your choice. You're kind of being forced into it. And I don't think that whenever you come to a table and play a role-playing game, there's no part of you being forced into it. Nobody's holding a gun to your head and saying, you're going to play D&D tonight, or I'm going to blow your head off.
And you're going to play this character. And if you don't play Murder Hobo 27... who only has a wolf and a dead sister. Not only will
and
I
you're half dragon and you're half vampire.
Yeah, not only will I kill you.
And your mother was the moon goddess.
You don't know it.
Right.
Not only will I kill you.
And you got infected with lycanthropy.
So you're just got a lot going on. But you have to play this character now or else I kill you and.
The only time I can think where you could be forced into doing this, and then we should get to the main point. Fuck. But, is that if you have a party that's somewhat established, or you can't make character creation, and everyone needs a healer.
But that's a party roll versus
you are still deciding, okay, I'll do this. But, there's a lot at play there, and sure, you have the freedom and the power to be no, I'm going to be another rogue, and, look your friends and just be
challenge me.
Fuck y'all!
Yeah, say I can't.
But the social contract is, written such that you're gonna play.
Well, so, even if you do accept that okay, I will play the healer, you still have total free reign over the character's personality. I've never been in a situation where I've come to I started to say something and I realized that yes, I have been in a situation where I came to a game, I thought I had a character in mind, and then the game master presented me with a 10-page backstory about my character. Yeah.
Was it good?
Everything about it was terrible, and I sent Beth a text to call me so I could feign a work emergency so I could leave.
Holy shit.
My favorite story you ever told me.
And so, I mean, we do have to get that. But I am curious, what was this
Wait a
person
minute, is
thinking?
this when you left my game 2 months ago? No, I got nothing.
What was this person thinking when they wrote that?
I have no clue.
Huh, that's strange.
They put a lot of time and effort into my character.
Single space or double space?
I don't recall.
Still, though, you know,
I
5
regret
to 10 pages.
I regret not taking the paper with me,
Yeah.
just so that I
there
could
you
keep
go.
for posterity.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I was in a hurry when I had to leave.
Yeah, like,
So
oh,
I
work
just grabbed my
emergency,
shit and
you,
left.
he's like, can I have that? I gotta go.
I'm already out the door. Okay, well, for the sake of simplicity, we'll assume that if you don't want to play something, so then the topic indeed... hello, listeners. Our topic today is playing against the group's social... No, that's the first bulletin. Fuck no. Clayton, I can't do this. You better do this.
Line.
This is hard.
Can someone get Mr. Perkins a line, please? Someone. Anyone. Who the fuck's...
I don't know. Be fired. I can't work like this.
Shit pay.
Well, do we want to talk about playing against the group social contract?
Well, yes, definitely. But you were saying
I was making...
why you believe that you are not able to play any character you want to play. So I guess there I did it. That's our topic. All right.
So, hi. I personally believe that it's near impossible to play any character that you want, because no matter what character you play, there will always be a part of you that is in the character. You can't play somebody that you do not feel like, oh, I can relate to them on this familiar level, or, you know, I really like, I'm not a rogue and I'm not a murderer, but I do have somebody I care about at home that makes me do things that I don't want to all the time. Or maybe they're like, this person likes puns and that's how I relate to them. There's always some aspect of your character that you feel is akin to you, or else you couldn't play that character. It's the same thing with acting. Even if you're playing the worst characters like Shakespearean villains like Iago, you need something that makes them human. And that's something that you take from yourself, your personal experiences, and put onto the character that gives you an to it.
So you're saying that actors always have to find something in their character that they can that they draw on in order to be
yes, or else they're a shitty actor.
Yikes.
Okay.
I have a degree in this.
I wish I could remember the name of the movie, but I do remember that one of the actors who was involved in this. There was, back in the 80s or 90s, there was a movie that John Cusack was in, and he was playing this really strung out character who had been up for days, and he himself had actually done this. He kept himself up for 50 plus straight hours,
yeah.
And there was another actor on the set with him, and he said to John Cusack, "Have you ever tried acting?"
Yeah, so that's it's method acting. And I can't remember if it's Strindberg or Strasberg. I'm pretty sure it's Lee Strasberg. There's different types of methods of acting. Typical ones are either Chekhov or Meisner, but some of the earlier forms of acting, they want you to literally push yourself aside to become a different person. But there, I think, is a difference between role-playing and acting. Because when you're role-playing, you know that, this is a character, this is a social construct that me and my friends are... When it comes to method acting, don't exist. And it's very extreme. It has a lot of polarizing... But, oh god, who's that guy who did Abraham? Daniel Day-Lewis is a really... He's a big promoter of method acting. Oh god. Oh, fuck. The Joker.
Heath Ledger.
Heath.
Hayley,
My boy Heath.
are you sure you went to school for acting?
I went to school for playwriting. Fuck you.
Okay.
Oh, so if it had been a stage production, you would have, remembered, right?
Oh, absolutely. Christopher Nolan in a one-act play.
Oh, no.
Heath Ledger as the Joker. Do you want to know how I got these scars? And it's a 2-hour monologue. I watched out of that. But point is that he succumbed to his method acting because of the role and what it took on. Even Christian Bale has done physical detriments to his body because acting. But that's not something you do in roleplay.
Okay, I want to use those two actors in particular as examples.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever seen the movie Newsies? And have you ever seen the TV series Roar?
Okay,
To my knowledge, they are the first acting roles of those two actors.
How dare you ask me if I've ever seen Newsies? How dare you? I've also never heard of the second thing, but Newsies? How dare you? Of course I've seen Newsies. I'm a small Jewish girl from New Jersey who loves musicals. Fuck you.
How awesome was Christian Bale's acting in Newsies? I mean, he has been the perfect actor since the get-go.
If you dare try to insult Newsies to my face again, I will slap you.
Yikes.
I'm just saying that no actor is this Oscar-winning actor the first role that they take on. They're still learning the craft. They're still learning how to act. And
That's true.
role-playing games are, like, whenever you take on a character, it is as close to acting as anything else. You are taking on this role, and it's just something that after you've had more experience at doing it, you get better and better and better. And like any muscle, like any training, like any anything that you need to work yourself up into doing, you're not going to be able to do it the first time. But I do feel like after you've done it for a while, after you've pushed yourself, I do believe that you can get to a point where you're going to play somebody who is completely different than you.
I absolutely agree that it's a muscle that you work on, and then slowly you lose, like, you can play more and more diverse characters, but I still don't think you can play someone who's 100% not who you. Even with those great actors, they still need a defined in before they can start shedding away the layers of themselves to make.
The events might be an important thing in creation of a person, but I think that when you draw upon your own experiences to better play a role, that doesn't necessarily mean that you are drawing upon your own personality. If I'm going to play a cop, Kyle Perkins, have never been. So does that mean that I can't play a cop? I played Officer Tequila UN, and he was wonderful. But
Tell me a bit more about Officer Tequila UN.
It was a one-shot, which we'll get into later.
Gotcha.
Because that is on the docket. But my point is that just because I haven't done something doesn't mean I can't play that character. And just because I have done something and naturally draw from that experience doesn't mean that the character I put it into is just a carbon copy of my experience.
Oh, okay. Perfect example. Do you remember when you were in my directing final?
Yes.
That character that you were playing was, I believe the character was married, and you were having a conversation with your wife that your best couple friend, you found out that the husband was cheating, and you were both trying to deal with the news about the fact that
he was coming by for dinner. Right?
Yeah, he was coming by, and she's like, we can't be friends with him. He's like, but we've known him for so long, we can't just shut him out because of a bad. How did you ground that as an actor? Because I remember you said you never dealt with that situation. How would you play a character like that? You've never had that experience, but how did you relate to it?
Well, we all, well, I guess not all of us, but most of us in the world have friends. And if you don't have friends, hey, I tell you what, donate to our Patreon. You know, give us some money. I'll be your friend. You can call me any day or night. Just pick up the phone when you're all alone, flesh and bone, by the telephone. Anyway, I imagine
only $9.95 for the first minute. And
hey, I'll just slap myself out on the phone for you. That's what I'm trying to get at. I tried to imagine that one of my dear friends had done something similar and how I would react. And I've never had a friend, do something like, not like something evil like murder or moida.
Get more interesting.
Yikes. But, I tried to imagine if, like, one of my best friends got married and then cheated on their spouse, and then they were about to come over for dinner. And it's in that particular case, I pulled quite heavily on what Kyle Perkins, would do in that situation, because it was, no offense, your acting final. I didn't have anything at stake. I wanted to do a good job, and that is literally what I've done in my brief acting career. If something is just, well, this is a project that is not either paying me or a project that is not going to be anything that will lead to something bigger, so I'm not going to phone it in, but I'm going to heavily and comfortably fall back upon myself and just essentially play a slightly modified version of Kyle Perkins, which is what we were talking about. Everyone seems to do in their first several RPGs, is play yourself, where you take one facet of yourself and extrapolate it out, or even just truly yourself. I don't know. I mean, even though I've just revealed to you that I didn't stay up all night and study and think on this role. You got me an
A. I don't give a shit.
Sure. So, point is, I have been nominated for Best Actor in the Idlewild Film Festival in California, and I think I know what I'm talking about now when I say this. Look at my IMDb, bitches! I have been!
IMDb?
I do!
I'm 100% going to do that right now. I'm so sorry. This is very...
But ultimately, I can't fully side with either of you, because, Clayton, I want to agree with you, but I've never... been tested to that point where I've had to truly put everything. I'm lazy. I'm lazy, Clayton.
So you're telling me that every character, like, particularly whenever you game master, every character that you take on, you ground yourself in some way to them. You've never, as a game master, played just like an absolute piece of shit of a human being, an absolutely evil being that is completely incomprehensible to the human mind. You've never played any characters like that, even for a few moments.
I suppose I have.
Okay. So what's the difference between doing that for a few moments and training yourself to do it for an entire game session?
Well, we keep dancing around the topic, but I think the difference there is one-shot versus campaign, and we can talk on that later. I hate to just give that answer and leave, but
I feel like that's a good transition.
Challenge is the big difference. Good transition.
Well, I think part of that, we just talked about this last week. I'm not going hyper-invest, fully flesh out an NPC. They'll have some personality and traits, but it's not be as fully as thing like a player character. So that's the distinction to me personally, is sure, you might play evil that's uncomprehendable by the human mind, maybe just fucks with people's lives for fun.
Like Shadow the Hedgehog.
Yeah, one of the best choice-built video games ever made. But I don't know. I feel like that's the difference there. Is at no point have I ever been this NPC villain, who's been made basically to be stopped by the protagonist, and that's their reason for existing at the end of the day. I feel like that's a limited enough scope that it should be.
Okay.
In my mind. Because, a player character's goal is to see an NPC, unless I would assume most game masters would look at it this way, NPCs serve to assist the plot, and whether that assistance is through being an obstacle to be overcome, or by being helpful. They're limited. They're one-dimensional in that regard. And you can flesh out what they're eating for breakfast. God, I feel like that's all I say anymore. Or you can make them as fully self-actualized as you want, but at the end of the day, there's still going to be this thing that is part of the game system that is not self-actualized. So I think that's the difference for me. And
I definitely want to now transition into the one-shot versus campaign, because that's kind of where it feels like this conversation is going. I have shown up to one-shots and had literally 5 minutes to come up with something, and so I throw some stats down and I just create, I play something for just the session, and it's something that is completely different from myself. It is a character who has a big fucking minigun, and that is the entirety of his personality, is just this big, muscle-bound Marine who is all oorah and just wants to mow down xenomorphs as soon as they get within his crosshairs. And that's been the entirety of that character that I played for that whole one shot. They never had any other.
I feel like that's some of the issues. I love one shots, but I feel like you're not actually role playing. You're playing a caricature. You're not playing a role. You're playing the etchings of a role. I feel like when you're role playing, these are fully fleshed out characters that will have arcs, that will grow, and you design them that way. But with one shots, they don't have any room. It's just a one and done shot. So therefore, you're not actually making a real good character. But that's my personal.
I think that's a tough one to come down on, because in a case like Clayton's, that character's probably not. There's a chance, right? But probably not. But that Star Wars one shot that I ran a while back, where everyone made characters, there was a little more room to grow there because you had these were one-shot characters, yes, but you had time to think about them, you had time to think about motivations, you had time to like flesh them out a little bit more. Like Kyle, I think Benny in that game like had a bit of an arc. Not a like huge arc, but like a bit of a like we weren't sure if you could like totally side with the Empire or if you could like believe your friends.
I tried to actually save my friends, and then the Empire just ended up orbitally bombarding the place, and so Benny thinks they're dead.
But anyway, my point being, yeah, I think if you have prep time, how much prep time do we have? That's the real question. But I think you have a little more time to flesh out those one-shot characters. There's a chance that they might have a little bit of growth, or a little bit of arc during, versus, I show up on a Thursday, like, I get off working at your so you go, we're doing a one-shot. Okay. I'm playing Han Solo, probably. Just my default. Kind of never works out that way, but, that's what I default into. And I guarantee you that character is not going to, well, on one hand, isn't going to be Han Solo, because I've never done that successfully, ever. But, on the other hand, is not going to, like, be much, Like, it'll be a fun time, but it's not going to be, like, this fully fleshed out thing. And I also think, for one-shots, it depends on being run. If you're running a, like, puzzle simulator, probably not going to be a whole lot of time to have character growth in it. But if, like, you're running, like, some survival thing, maybe your character has to make a couple choices of, do they save this person, do they not? And that maybe leads to a character growth. So, I think that's hard to talk about. I know that was long.
The core difference between a one-shot and a campaign, I think, is freedom. Whether or not there's character growth, there is a greater opportunity for anybody playing a one-shot to not worry about their character, not overthink things, not try to impress their friends, and just play something, play anything. Play Han Solo, play Marine with a minigun. And that said, when you are getting into a one-shot, and no matter how much prep time you have, you're probably going to allow, your inhibitions will drop. You'll allow wilder ideas to come to fruition, right?
Yeah.
And now we probably should have just transitioned before, but it's okay. We had a couple of points we brought up about this topic that specifically tied into one-shots. But that's my general belief anyway with one-shots.
Well, you had mentioned the cop character.
Oh, yeah.
And that was a one-shot, and you wanted to tie that in.
I think that was towards the end of the...
Well, that was recently. Just talking.
No, I mean...
Well, I think that it's a fine time to bring it up, because with a one-shot, you, at least I'll say, will play something that I have no experience in more readily. I'll do that without thinking about it too much. And I think I have to fall back more on my acting prowess versus my own personal experiences. Because in a one-shot, I'm going to play a wacky cop. In a one-shot, I'm going to play a modern-day cowboy. I've never been any of those. And so I think that it's just like, you went to playwriting business. Like,
I went to playwriting business?
Yeah, so like, like you guys, don't you guys all do like improv, like the cult of improv or something?
But I really would have been so helpful.
Well, I'm guessing that improv is your chance to just let your freak flag fly. You're just throwing ideas out there. And...
improv is actually a lot more structured. It revolves around the idea of yes, which is when you throw an idea out, you cannot deny somebody else's idea, but you have to accept it and build upon it. However, you cannot throw an idea out that specifically negates or contradicts somebody. So you'd be like, we have a dog. Like, yes, and
he's dead.
Yeah, that's building off of it, and that's like, yeah, we have a dog, and instead, what do we do? It can be like, we have a dog, and the cat's name is Bill. And they're like, no, we just said it was a dog. You can't just say it's a cat. Like, it has to build upon it.
I always just heard that theater improv is just massive.
I mean, you're talking about orgy improvs.
Oh, that's a thing, too.
Orprov, yeah.
Orprov.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. So it's
more
about
through the grapevine,
improving the body rather than the mind.
Ah, so you never know what you like. Maybe you just, like, stick your pinky up someone's nose.
Yes.
Like,
yes, and.
Yes, and.
Game mechanics is props to be a different character. What about it, guys?
I want to kind of talk a little bit more about just doing the long game, doing a campaign length thing where you are trying to play something that maybe isn't 100% different from you, but it is approaching it. what I have experienced is that the biggest barrier to doing that is the same barrier of whenever I resolve I'm going to like exercise every day for until I'm in a lot better shape. It gets to the point where like if you stop doing that, like the game gets canceled for a couple of weeks, you lose that. You lose the ability to take on that character. That muscle begins to atrophy. And so you fall back on just kind of the things that you've always done. That's what happened with my Eclipse Space character. Is I had at the start of the campaign, I had this very distinct idea of who that character was, what he thought, how he interacted with the world, and we missed a few sessions, and it got really hard for me to get back into that mindset. And so I just kind of fell back on old habits, the things I knew. And the character changed because of that, not because that was something that I felt like the character would have grown into, but it just changed because it became more like every other character that I played.
I wish there was a term for it. I wish there was, maybe we could think of some term for the kind of character you play when you just fall back. I mean, yeah, but I want something more.
You're true neutral?
No.
I kind of like...
Yeah, but my default is...
yeah, but like it's like...
Maybe neutral good. Maybe We'll workshop that coming up here. But anyway, yeah, I think that is a very... And it's not to say it's a bad thing. I happen to enjoy playing neutral, good, swashbuckling jacks of those trades. But it's important to recognize when you're... Especially... excuse me. Especially if you're trying to...
So we've kind of talked nebulously about this topic. We've talked very in generalities. And a lot of game systems give mechanical benefits or hindrances or flaws, disadvantages. A lot of games have mechanical aspects to them that are basically prompts in order to get you to play a character who might be different than you in some way. I kind of want to go over some of the different ones that we've all played with in games. One of my earliest examples of this would have been back in the days of, well, at the time it was just called World of Darkness. It has since become the Old World of Darkness, and then it changed to where it was called Classic World of Darkness, and now I have learned that there is a new term, One World of Darkness, that is referring to the storyline of Cain and all that. Yeah, they're changing it every few months, it seems. So back whenever I was first playing that, they had nature and demeanor as aspects of your character that were very loosely defined, that you determined. Your nature was basically who your person was in their core, and your demeanor was your outward face that everybody saw, how you tried to have other people perceive you as. And I saw that as very much a microcosm of like us playing a character, and trying to play a character who was different from ourselves. The World of Darkness rules themselves had where you had your core, like who you actually were, and then kind of the face that you put in front of everyone. And it was a reflection of the process of role-playing that your character did every time they interacted with other people. In the same way that none of us are the same person, the same way, none of us interact the same way with everybody in our lives. We interact with our parents in a particular way. We interact with each other, like each of us sitting around the table in a particular way. One-on-one, I act a little bit different with each one of you one-on-one. At work, I act a certain way whenever I'm...
switching.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a roleplay within a roleplay.
Yeah. One World of Darkness had that way of doing it. Then there's been flaws and hindrances. D&D alignment really is a lot based on this idea, so that you can choose two words that basically define a big swath of your personality, and you can, most people, they can choose one alignment on that spectrum, and it is very opposite of the way they are as a real person, and it gives you a guideline to play somebody who is completely different.
The first RPG I ever played my freshman year in college was D20 Modern yourselves. Excluding that, The first one, I'm pretty sure this was the first one where I had to actually make a character that was not me, was Buffy, and I looked it up. I'm using the...
Cortex?
No, You got shit.
Unisystem?
God damn. Unis. I literally just... So, the first game I ever played where I had to make a character was the Buffyverse game, the Unisystem, and using those mechanics. And I remember very distinctly the hindrances and... What's the opposite they're called? Like it's hindrance or...
I don't remember.
Boon. Well, regardless, the hindrances and the other one, the good one,
positive.
the good stuff, the positives, that caused me to... they're called qualities and drawbacks. There we go. I had to sit there and think, man, I really want that quality, but like I can't afford it or whatever, or like, ooh, that drawback would be really interesting. And that prompted me to create a character in a way that I might not have thought about otherwise. And then, of course, you were just saying deep alignment. I remember having some, like, discussion, and I didn't have any high school friends who played these, and so I remember having some very cool discussion in freshman year of college about the D&D alignment, and what we thought we were, and what we thought our friends were, and our crushes were. Oh, babies. So, those are good examples. Anybody have any other good examples of systems that do that well?
I guess I have a system that, well, maybe didn't do it. The Final Fantasy role-playing, I played...
Is that official, or...
I think it's unofficial.
There is no official. Yeah.
And it was, I think, it would have physical negative points. And so I played a frail, blind summoner. Now, already, to tie this into, like, can you play a character that a whole lot like, thank goodness, obviously, blind,
Yet!
Uh-oh. But how, was I ever going to really be able to get in this character's head, like, understand his daily struggle of not only being chronically ill, but, like, blind? No. Did I take those traits on one because I was an edgy teenager? Sure. Did I also take them because it gave me, like, I had the most negative traits, but I also had the most positive, because it was one of those systems where like,
classic.
Yeah. And so, but, I think that, like, sort of speaks a little bit to this topic, where, like, I took those traits, sure, and they're a mechanic in there, but it's less so like your example, Clayton, where that wasn't really impacting my roleplay, that, like, if anything, I totally shot myself in the foot, because we later found out that, like, my summons would have any afflictions that I also had.
Oh, no!
And it was supposed to be mostly a, like, purely combat mechanic where, like, if you get a temporary status ailment, it impacts your summons. But, like, I gave myself a permanent status ailment, so all my summons came out blind and had a 50% chance to hit anything. I was the worst. It was the worst character I've ever made. And then on top of that, too, every turn, there was a 25% chance I'd lose my action because I started to coughing up blood. It's kind of like what we were thinking about doing with Drowmere. Yeah. So literally just...
Play a stupid game, win stupid prizes.
Yeah, right. But I had, like... But it was all balanced out by weird stuff. Like, I had an insane boost to intelligence and magic that I got through the positive qualities. Anyway, to loop this back around, besides just my bad decision-making as a teenager, I was never going to be able to, like, roleplay that character the right way. And it didn't help that people in the party would constantly use the fact I was blind against me, where, like, they'd go into my room and, like, rearrange all the furniture, and I'd walk in and it was, like, it was awful. They were totally the worst people.
I would do that to you if and when you become blind, by the way.
Thank you.
Bear that in mind.
So I'm glad that was, like, just a prototype for the future.
Mm-hmm.
Good. But yeah, I think that those things are in there, and they could make for an interesting roleplay opportunity, but, like, how the hell were you ever going to accurately get a blind, sick summoner? Well, who also, may I add, was our blitzball goalie. Jesus. Because we were a blitzball team.
Well, would you have tried if you wouldn't have had those prompts there to cause you to min-max and pick blindness permanently? That's why I like them. That's why I like that they're in there. It's why I do very much appreciate all flavors of World of Darkness. They definitely want to call it what you call it. It's why a lot of role-playing games, a lot of them that seem to be based on, that are based on an existing television property. I've never played the Firefly role-playing game.
Well, I agree with Kyle. These are all very cool things to have in the system. That blind summoner aside, now, if I'm taking that, there is a little bit of min-maxing involved, but it's also like how do I think this flaw could be read well into the character? I'll be honest, I don't ever think, am I going to be able to roleplay this flaw the right way? There's obviously some stuff that I express, but I'm never going to play a schizophrenic character. But I don't know. I
What
think that
about
there's...
Malkavian?
What?
The one World of Darkness? I don't like saying that.
Malkavians are in each edition, so...
Okay, so
You're good.
Malkavians in Vampire the Masquerade, the Worlds of Darkness, they are specifically a vampiric race with the hindrance that they have some sort of... And you can decide what that is, whether that be like they have
Crippling
minor
depression.
OCD, crippling depression, or that they are schizophrenic. Like, it's a character aspect you cannot escape, although you get, like, incredible frickin' stats. It's a forcible illness.
I don't know if I'd play it, but like a crack at it and learn it the right way, I think that's fine.
Katie, you did mention something that I want to kind of come back to is like playing something that you can understand.
Yeah.
And I want to make that like just because you can understand something doesn't mean that it's not suddenly completely different from you, and that it's like you can still play something like as long as you feel like you have an understanding of a particular situation or an illness or something like that. That would still be something that is completely different from you. If you had an understanding of it, then played it in a way, and just played it, it would be, you can play something that you don't know. As long as something that you have not personally experienced, as long as you can understand it. And that, I think that is my point of that you can in fact play things that are not you. You can play a character who is completely different as long as you have some understanding of what it's like to be in that type of a life.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not opposed. If I'm gonna play a one-armed Jedi, they lost their arm in Order 60.
Who now rides a motor scooter, and they have dumbbells that they really work out that one remaining arm with.
It's as if one voice cried out in anguish and suddenly silenced.
Just one, though. Yeah, but if I want to play that character concept, I guess it depends. You know, it depends on whether or not, like, that blind summoner that was purely a mechanical thing that I had in Superficial. It was very surface level. It was never part of the character. So I guess maybe in that regard, it's a little easier to play those sort of things. If you have an understanding of it, I think that works too. But like, I don't know. Like, I think going in and being like, I'm going to play this inner city African American youth because, like, as you know, a Caucasian white person, I understand the black struggle. I think that's a tough nut to crack. I mean, I'm just going right in there.
Are you a celebrity?
Are you Scarlett Johansson?
Are you Angelina Jolie?
Scarlett Johansson.
I think Scarlett Johansson.
Okay, well, regardless, if you are a celebrity, then you absolutely... And, guys, let's be honest, they're actors. They probably know what it's like to be every type of person on Earth, so they're absolutely qualified to tell us all how bad we are.
Did you know Sir Anthony Hopkins played a black man?
No.
He played Othello in blackface on the BBC. 8-part series.
Yikes. That's a lot. I don't know. I think that that's the tough line there, and it relates to, can you play something you don't understand? Like, if we're playing World of Darkness game and someone from that character, I'm gonna kind of be like, you're doing this. But like, you know, and then is it fair then to be like, yes, my one-armed Jedi that lost in Order 66, is it fair to make that disability then a superficial part of the character? Probably not.
I think that this is a great topic to switch gears, great time to switch gears into when the people around you and the social contract limit your ability to play something. Because if I roll up to a World of Darkness game with a black inner city youth who is a computer hacker, who's...
Wait, so you're just John Boy.
Oh, I've never heard of that, Kyle. What is that?
Oh, all the hipsters. So I just figured, obviously, you would know.
The block, but sure.
I could also be misremembering. You know.
Regardless, I come in and that's my character, and I'm clearly a white guy, and somebody at the table says, can't play a black character, what are you doing? That would be an awkward situation. It would be a situation where clearly I misread the social contract, and I would then feel pretty weird, even if everyone else in the room was just like, come on, what's the problem? I would feel weird then playing that character, that there was someone who's assuming that I was because I have a color.
I guess the social construct is that, like, if it's a cosmetic thing, it's just like who that character is. But if you're going around saying the N-word as a white person in this RPG, we're gonna have problems.
That's a bit different from what I was saying, because that would be problematic for sure.
Yeah. But I also feel like there's a social construct where, like, as a group, we're like, hey, we're a bunch of white persons, but in our group we also have a lot of lady types and non-binary types, so I feel like it would be really hard to play someone coming in being, like, super misogynistic or super racist. You came to the table with that character, be like, okay, maybe not. I feel like, depending on the people you play around with, the social construct changes to what's the fantasy, and then what is, even in our fantasy world, something to see. Racism.
Yeah, I'm not here to argue the merits or the whether or not it is okay for someone to say, hey, everybody at our table, we all think that Frank's racist character sucks. So Frank, make him. That's a different topic. But it is definitely something I bring up, and this should be aware that that is a potential limit to your agency. There we go.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I'm bringing it back. I don't know.
No, I think you're absolutely right. I think being aware of people around the table about what they're making, make sure that it's like the same socially, is very be aware.
That was it. Was that was the last laugh you wanted to go out on?
And that was it.
I think there's a lot. I think that this conversation that we're sort of having for the entire episode, playing a racist character in the comfortable social contract, or like I'm going to play another rogue, but like I'm especially cutthroat, like party of mostly good, and like the players aren't being nice, but they're like, we want to play like maybe do-gooders or like kids, not physical kids, but young people adventurers. They're like just starting to have like old crotchety D over there with his like serrated dirk.
Why are you looking at me? Why are you looking at me?
He's
Why are
got
you
that dirk.
pantomiming being me?
And he's got that dirk, and he's just like stabbing people with it, taking their money.
Call him the dirk.
So I don't know. Obviously then I think you could sit down, and the social contract theory is a little more flexible to be like, hey, let's talk about this rogue character. Rogue I saw on once in a fucking
Nightmare.
They call him
Dirty Dirk.
Dirty Dirk. Uncle Dirty Dirk. He's got a serrated dirk.
Good God.
I think, that's a little easier to deal with than, alright, Frank, kind of being racist trash, and we talk about that.
Well, see, that's very, very, very different than I'm saying. Imagine that Frank is perfect. He's Jesus reincarnated.
Okay. Like literal
Yeah,
Jesus.
and so he's not racist at all. And he is a mix of every race on the planet. So he's like all of them
At once.
So he can't
possibly be
it's not
racist.
possible for him to be racist. And Frank wants to play a racist character just for the sake of like, yeah, we're doing an evil campaign, or we're doing a campaign where it was okay, like it's not something where it's like we're all going to play good do-gooders. It was like it's going to be like kind of like a morally gray situation, survival apocalypse, and Jesus reincarnated, man of the world, is like, yeah, I'm going to play a racist character. And he's not throwing out slurs, and he's not, he can't be racist, so we know that. That's already out. Let's throw that right out.
Sure, but like if he runs into an Asian NPC, he like...
But he doesn't throw out a slur, because we already talked about that. but he is definitely
irrationally angry.
I do not like you because I do not like your race, madam. In that situation, it might be still, with all of that ridiculous shit that I just said, it might be that everyone else at the party is just like, come on, Frank. You don't want a fucking racist in the party.
Come on, Jesus.
Well, they call him Frank because he's like undercover.
Oh, okay.
Come on, Frank, we don't want a racist in the party. Play something else. It might still happen, and Frank might have to change his character. Meaning that I've decided I believe that you cannot truly play every person out to play because of other people, not because of anything you said here.
No, still on my team.
Hell is
Point
other
one
people.
for us.
Hell is other people.
My overall feeling, like I said, on one hand, the idea, I think you can argue semantically bogged down, because, like, the idea of playing something opposite would have to, maybe not necessarily this, but, like, complete antithesis. And it could be just one factor, right? But then I'm sure the argument goes of, like, oh, well, even though that one factor is different, you're still drawing on things to influence that and understand it, or B, other parts are things. So, like, the idea of literally playing the absolute antithesis would have to be, in my mind, the only way you're playing something completely different. And even then, I'm sure an argument can be made that, like, hey, just because the fact that all this stuff is the opposite is also just a sign that...
Okay, Raumir. get that wisdom out of here. I think that you really can train yourself to play and be and act like something that is entirely the opposite, totally the antithesis of you.
I want to say that I think you can play something that is completely not you, and it doesn't have to just be the opposite of everything that you are. I don't think there are enough things that do not exist in an either or situation that you can find a multitude of different ways that you can create a character who is completely different from yourself.
I'm Manichaean in my viewpoints on the world, which I believe very heavily in. So I would suggest you keep your comments to yourself, madam.
Frank?
You? It's me, guys. I decided the racist character idea after listening to you said wasn't a good idea. So I'm back with character number 2.
Okay. Tell me all about it. Sorry, Frank.
I'm a serial killer.
Okay.
And I have a pet that I care about.
Okay.
But I feed it only its own kind.
That's fucking rad. So you're like a fucking serial killer with a dog and you only feed the dog other dogs?
Yeah.
I've played that.
And,
shit! That's dark, Frank.
And
I love that.
But I work at McDonald's.
Oh, now you're making it real.
Well, this is a hunter game.
Wow.
So how do you... Yeah, so is that acceptable in the social contract?
You're playing a serial killer.
Absolutely.
I see what you did there.
Wait, what? I don't...
You're playing Hunter as a serial killer.
Yeah.
Harky.
100% because I've seen it in that character.
Well, I mean, we live in America, where, tacit racism just goes by us all the time. But, we see something that has been pointed out as racist and all immediately jump up and we're all up in arms about it. Whereas shows like Dexter exist, fucking action movies where people are like the Kill Bill franchise exists, and no one gives a shit. So I think in that situation, a group would probably let your serial killer who feeds its pet dog other dogs fly. Where if you have a 50-year-old U.S. postal delivery guy who has worked the same route his whole life and has a friendly rapport with every single person on his route, except the Hispanic ones. He doesn't really care for those. They'd be like, whoa, we got a racist here, we can't let you play that guy.
Well, I feel like serial killers are a fantasy.
Oof. Are they, though?
Yeah. I don't know any actual serial killers.
That
But I know
you're
lots
aware
of real
of.
racists.
Yeah, but I mean, I just say that I get what you're saying, but to say that serial killers don't exist is
No, I
also
mean,
a
they
fallacy.
exist. But they don't exist in my current reality that I experience them on but I do experience racism and sexism on a daily basis, and that's not something I want in my fantasy. I want
Sure.
princesses and dragons and extremist murderers who I get to, fight in battle or maybe befriend and teach them empathy.
Like Al-Qaeda?
I would fight...
You would befriend Al-Qaeda.
Knowing the type of characters I play, yes.
I think there's a lot to unpack there. A lot of different things.
But I mean, it might be different for every single person. That's what I'm saying. The things that you experience mostly on a daily basis are things that you'll want less of.
I mean, I totally
Yeah.
agree with you, Hayley, in the sense that most people in their fantasy games, they get together once a week to have fucking fun. They don't want to deal with some racist asshole character played by Jesus Christ reincarnated, who we know is not racist.
Because he's a vulture.
Yeah, but
because I'm
serial
trying.
killers
My
are...
point in this thought experiment is that I'm trying to get out any idea that this hypothetical person is actually a racist, fulfilling their racist fantasies by playing an RPG.
Yeah.
So, if you can imagine in this fake hypothetical, someone who is incapable of being racist decides to bet. So, whatever. Thought experiment aside, we'll put it all out of the way. I agree with you that, people don't want to experience the daily suffering they experience in the real world in their RPG world. But it is interesting to me how quick we are to okay, the same kind of violent, gory, bloody shit by that in this particular segment of culture is just totally okay.
Yeah, because we're fucked.
Well, I mean, you
Well,
just
everyone
did
knows
say,
shit's
and quote, serial killers are fine.
Like,
Those
know.
were words that came out of your
Excuse me,
mouth.
I said serial killers are fun. I did not say
Is that any
fine.
better?
It absolutely is.
Well, the extreme violence just kind of goes back to Haley's point of, that's not something that any of us experience every single day. I'm sure if we were, soldiers who were in a war zone and we got together to play a fantasy RPG to basically wind down, I don't know if we'd be playing a modern game set in that particular place where we were, or somewhere else in the world that was also experiencing war. I don't know if that I don't know if that would be palatable for the same reasons that, like, the violence would be palatable for the same reason that Hayley is saying that, like, misogyny and racism and stuff are not palatable in our current.
It definitely puts it in perspective. Like, and I mean, I think that speaks to the experiences of both, right? I'm not saying that. I think that's interesting, though, in that, Hayley, you can very matter-of-factly sit over there and say, for within your own experiences, like, I'm fine with, like, serial killers. Hell, playing one might even be fun. But then all of a sudden it's like, this guy's sexist, like, that's something we have to lean back on, you know?
Yeah.
I think that's just it.
Oh, it is. I mean, I'm also fucked, but so are all of us.
Hey, but we're not, you're not. I mean, actually, I don't know your own levels of how fucked you think you are, but my point being, I think everyone at the table is kind of just like, yeah, if we get a chance to, like, fight this evildoer and kill him, we'll do it, you know? And, like, how do we establish he's evil? He massacred an entire village, and, like, we don't even bat an eye at that. We're like, oh, that guy, you know? But, like, someone who maybe in real life, like, had fucking drone strikes dropped on their village and maybe lost their brother or something. Like, they're gonna be, like, a lot more aggressive.
Yeah.
To be clear, unless I tell Gunther to call off the hit, you're...
Well, most player characters are mass murderers anyway, so why would we bat an eye? Because that's the kind of characters that we ourselves are playing. Even if we're playing, even if we're playing a holier than thou paladin, yeah, he's fine with going in and slaughtering an entire camp worth or village worth of
alignment.
Yep,
they came up as evil.
Yep,
I need to smite. I have to smite.
Let me smite.
Let me smite.
Well, this goes back to my point. Hell is other people. We can play anything we want to play until other people get in there and ruin it for us.
At that point, you're just writing a novel. Look where that got you.
Lots of money and fame.
Moby Dick. It's got dick in the title.
It sure does, buddy. It sure does.
Is this your white whale?
That's what I call... What? Sorry, I lost track of what we were talking about.
Yeah, we're right about it.
Let's pull it together here. One final push.
All right, so let's go around and just each one of us kind of talk about a character that you've played that is kind of the most unlike you that you can think of, and how was it different from you as a person. I'll go ahead and start. I would say that the character who was most different from me would have been my character from Eclipse Phase, Rain. The first few sessions where I played him, he was different from me in pretty much every way that I could conceive. He was a very religious character. He, in a lot of ways, was very conservative. He was a character who always acted. I made sure that whenever we had like a few moments to do something, that character was doing something at the time. Maybe it was just reading the Bible, but more often than not, he was out there amongst people, proselytizing, evangelizing, trying to get converts, or he was working on stuff for his main quest. I spent a lot of time researching who this character would be. I spent a lot of time reading about people who are very different from me, who have those very religious, very sure of themselves types of personalities. And I feel like that was the most radical departure from me as a person that I've ever played.
This is a character from a changeling game that my good friend Aaron ran. Really, really wish. This character was from a changeling game that I wish I could have completed. It was run by my very good friend Aaron. And the character I was playing was a flowering, which are like really beautiful, intricate flower people who have like vines and do some cool nature stuff. And they were very different from me because they did not give a flying fuck about the fact that they were just like this pretty little flower. And they were also an addict. They were going through withdrawal. And the way that we decided to do it as a character was, she, in the hedge, to survive, she had convinced herself that her and the fairy thing that kidnapped her, they were in, and she has an item from the hedge that she knows if she opens this book and reads it, she can go back to the hedge, and she can, survive. But she knows, like, that was false. This is something I told myself to survive. I can't go back there. So she's going through this withdrawal, because being there was was an addiction for her, being around this person, and being in the hedge gave her all these flower powers, and now that she's back in reality, she's wilted. And she's going through heavy amounts of withdrawal, and she's using other substances to try and ignore the fact that she's slowly dying. And that was really interesting, because I've never gone through withdrawal or wanting someone in that levels that you would actually die went back. And that was a really interesting character, and I'd really love to play her again, because I feel like I could play more India.
It was a short-lived character that kind of lasted one session and then died. I played serial killer, who knives and got in close, stibbity stab, extreme stealthy and dishonest, a sociopath who did not have anyone on his, so no Indian friend, even though I tried to build rapport with people only to manipulate, because my goal was to have, basically, if I tried to kill any, important crew, I forget now, I didn't want to kill any of the player characters, but I wanted to try and kill some random crewman, once every other session, and anyway, the aliens killed me first session, so it didn't matter.
So I'm gonna bring up a thing that I'm sure Hayley's gonna correct me on.
Welcome.
I was in a student university, ran for about a year, and it was very RP heavy, so I got really attached to and fleshed out the character. But it was a character, and I've talked about him before. His name is Shale. He was only ever supposed to be a one-shot. I was never supposed to join the game. I had a bunch of friends in there that were both running it, and my partner was playing it. And they were like, come in just for a session, and just sit in, it'll be fun to have you. And I was like, all right. So I made this just selfish, lies constantly, never stops talking, sort of character that would talk himself into situations and then attempt to talk his way out of situations, but was always lying, very rarely told. And they were never big huge lies. If he genuinely felt attached to someone, he would tell them that. But what are you doing right now? He could have been reading a book, but just be I'm fixing this console, just weird shit like that. And it was just very different for me, because I obviously never lie. I'll still lie right now. But I think just this character's way of approaching situations, of just nonstop talking and conversation, and just 100% confidence. That was the biggest thing about this character, was confidence. At no point in time did this character ever feel as though they were the chips were down, or they failed, or anything like that. The confidence was so unshakable that they could be defeated on the ground, all hope is lost, and they just be this is I'm not trapped in here with you, you're trapped in here with me. No health, just this insane amount of confidence that I'm a relatively confident person, but I've never had that level of confidence, and I think that was very different. And not to get too psychological, but I think I'm sort of selective in the way that I approach people. And this character was very outgoing, but also because of the lies, and this is where Hayley, you can probably correct me.
Here for you.
But there was a mechanic in the system for fusing, or whatever it's called.
Fusion.
Yeah. I only know about the drum. We didn't have to do that. Or no, you do have to do the dance.
You have to do the dance. You need to synchronize your gem energy, which is your bodies, by making sure they're perfectly intertwined with the fusion dance.
So it's just Dragon Ball. It's just Dragon Ball. Okay. But anyway, my character had the most fusions in the party, just through his personality. It could fuse. And in game, that was the RP reason, but out of character was because I bumped up the fusion stat all the way, so I could fuse it anyway.
There's a stat for fusion? What system did you use?
Oh, a homebrew one. It was a special stat. But anyway, yeah, that is the character I think that was most different from me.
Your character could use with anyone, because shale is a rock, and they're gems, and rocks are not gems.
This is what I was waiting for. I just couldn't. I didn't expect to be playing past session 1, so I was just I'll make myself a fucking rock. I don't care.
Actually, they did just introduce rocks in the last episode of Steamers. They're called
pebbles. Well, and here's the other struggle here too, was I'd watched one episode, the very first episode of the show, that was it.
Oh no.
And so I knew nothing about what I was doing, I knew nothing about, and so that was also a big deal, because when I play a character, I like to have a general idea of what I'm doing, and kind of do some background research. Even with fucking Realmir, I fucking got that book of Chinese witticisms that I can draw on, so. Yeah, that was definitely a challenge for me, and I think it was also very different. La 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 la, Realmir's world. Great. Tickle me, Realmir! With 5 cool phrases, such as, Ruling a small kingdom is like frying a small fish. And others.
As seen on TV.
Alright, guys, let's talk about geek things that we're aware of. I'll start off, and I'm probably going to steal KP's. I'm going to talk about something that's really far out, man. 2018 VG-18, the furthest object observed that is a part of our solar system. It is approximately 120 times further from the sun than the Earth is. Was discovered a couple weeks... Well, it was discovered at the beginning of November, but its trajectory was worked out in there. And it was discovered that it is probably it is the furthest object that we are aware of. A couple of weeks ago, they confirmed that. The other thing is not really a geek thing, but something that I think people should check out. There is a documentary on YouTube called Beneath the Ink, and it is about a tattoo artist in Zanesville, Ohio, named Billy Joe White, who covers up racist and or offensive tattoos.
I hadn't actually object discovered. Not. No, I guess how regular is it?
All I know is that it at its closest, it actually comes within the orbit of Neptune, but at its furthest, it's projected to be get out to 120 AUs out. So they discovered it while they were doing searches for the possible ninth planet. While they were analyzing data for that, they discovered this object.
Cool. The guy who covers up tattoos, does he actively see somebody with a racist tattoo and be like, I'll cover that for free? Or do people come to him?
People come to him.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
I like
yes.
he's trolling around.
Yeah, he's just like, is that a fucking swastika? I'm gonna cover that for free. You like poinsettias?
He's from Zanesville, Ohio. He does not have that accent.
So transitioning into something way less fun, Voltron, Legendary Defender, dropped their final season, if you've watched it.
I think you've already talked about Voltron.
Did I? No, I did not.
No,
I talked about it earlier.
Voltron, really?
I talked about Voltron for 5 whole minutes before the podcast started, but I haven't officially talked about it on the podcast until today. Ladies and gentlemen, have you ever heard of Voltron Legendary Defender? Do you want to have emotions, mostly negative ones, yell at your screen being like, why? Why? Dear God, why are you writing this? Please make it stop. Well, then I highly recommend Voltron Legendary Defender. The reason I'm bringing this up is because the final season is dropped, and I have very negative emotions about the show as a whole because it had a lot of potential, but the way that the show and the fandom ate itself, I've never seen any other sort of fandom, whether it be movies, comics, cartoons, anime. The way that the show was conceived and written by individuals that were not allowed to contact each other or share ideas, and then the way that the fandom got so toxic that the show began to cut characters and rewrite episodes to spite their fans, just boggles my mind.
It's a good thing Star Wars isn't ever going to like that.
I know, right? It's crazy.
It's a good thing.
It's just, I have personally never experienced something like this, and I would love to discuss more with people who have opinions about Voltron Legendary Defender. I will also gladly talk about the original Voltron, who, I have opinions and emotions. So if you want to have opinions and emotions with me, contact me on my Instagram, which is Bae the Fae, that's B-A-E, the F-A-E, and scream Voltron into my chats and happily reply back.
I'm just doing movie corner now. That's just what I do. It's the only thing I
swear to God, if you talk about Bird Box, I'll punch you.
I'm not, actually. I haven't seen Bird Box.
Bird Box!
Though I hear it's certainly a film to be watched. Why would you punch me over the... So I watch mostly bad movies, an especially bad film called Reindeer Games.
Awesome.
Yeah, Christmas movie. Christmas was involved, tertially. That's not the right word. Tangentially, I suppose.
I would say that tertiary does in fact fit for this movie.
Yeah, it's sort of Christmas. It's a weird one. It's one of those ones where it was bad, but the twists were kind of hitting you, and you stuck with it, and it had some good suspense.
This is not a recent movie.
It's not. It came out in the 90s, and it's
Ben Affleck,
and I don't remember.
And
actress.
Is it Ed Harris?
I don't maybe, but I'm not sure. But anyway, it's this movie about this con that gets out of prison. His cellmate, who had been writing to this woman, is killed 2 days before they leave, and so when the woman comes to pick him up, he pretends to be the cellmate and gets into just this ever more spiraling situation.
But where are the ratings?
The quote comes from the fact that A, it's set in December, and B, at one point the lead villain says, "Please don't play any reindeer games with me," because it's, set in December. But that's about it. I did watch an actual good movie though. I watched Chasing the Dragon with Donnie Yen, Andy Lau, and that's a really good Hong Kong martial arts gangster movie. Donnie Yen really plays a guy, I think he's Crippled Ho, and he really puts in a great performance. If you like martial arts movies.
I was incorrect. It is not Ed Harris. It is, oh crap, Gary Sinise, the other guy from Apollo 13.
Oh, nice. Well, firstly, I just think it's really funny that this Voltron scandal is happening because it's been around so long. This idea that an author would do something despite their fans.
But I've never actually seen it executed. They were like, I'm going to do this because I don't like them.
Did you ever read Little Women?
I read the first 4 chapters.
That's fun. Well, anyway, there's a Louisa May Alcott wrote in her journal at one point, I won't marry Joe and Lori, I think that her names, to please anyone.
What? No! Joe deserves happiness!
Well, no, she gets it. She marries Joe to this, kindly, not as romantic and, passionate, but, a really solid choice. And she's just like, no, fuck you, fans. I'm not going to marry these two. It'd be a bad idea. I'm not going to do it to please anybody.
Spoiler alert for a book that came out 170 years ago.
How dare you ruin Little Women for our readers?
If we happen to have, any 10-year-olds listening to this podcast, 1, who let you? 2, sorry, you might be forced to read Little Women someday, or choose to read it on your own, and it's been spoiled for you now. Nerd things.
Wait, that wasn't your nerd thing? You didn't just want to talk about it?
No. Did I already talk about the moped?
Yeah.
I did. Yeah. Well, I'm boring. I got nothing.
How obvious were
Yeah, no, I honestly, Little Women, check it out.
Links in the description.
Is that the Winona Ryder adaptation you're recommending?
I actually haven't seen any of the movies or TV series. I feel like an asshole now.
I literally talked about a bad, not Christmas movie from the...
Actually, it came out in 2000.
Oh my god. Missed it by a year.
Let me tell you about Formula L, the best southern buttermilk biscuit mix you can find. Can't buy it in Ohio. If we have any listeners in the Virginia area, I'm jealous. Send me some Formula L. This shit is dope. It's got butter chips built in. It's got everything you need, all the powdered ingredients, flour, baking powder, sugar, salt. All you do is add buttermilk. Press them down, fold them over, cut them out with a glass or some kind of round object, cookie cutter. Put that shit in a pan. Mwah! Buttermilk biscuits to die for. That's legitimately. Formula L, man. It's great.
Alright, guys. What do you say we stop this bullshit, this long bullshit, and roll some dice? This has been a production of Alien Familiar Media. You can find past episodes and more at alienfamiliar.com. You can email us at alienfamiliarmedia@gmail.com. This production is protected under a Creative Commons non-commercial attribution, no derivatives license. Music for this episode is Suburban Outlaw by Forget the Whale and can be found at freemusicarchive.org.